They called us the Yin-Yang twins, Danny and Paul, light and dark. One was destined to walk on the path our father had forged, the other doomed to fall off it. Hi, I'm Paul, the one everyone thought was too nice to be a syndicate overlord. I remember a life that I used to live in a world that seemed like a dream now. Our house was littered with gold, massive paintings hung on the walls, and peacocks strutted around the grounds. I was raised to be the heir of a crime syndicate that ran the city. The firstborn were traditionally the heir, but for some reason, my dad despised me. He made it clear early on that he would have preferred that Danny inherit everything.
You are such a wimp. If you're gonna be a crime lord, you gotta have nerves of steel. Now throw those bunnies into the snake enclosure like your brother is doing.
I just couldn't do it. I didn't want to hurt anyone or anything, but Danny was so good at it.
He is not fit to lead, because you failed as a father! Paul is the eldest! It is tradition!
One day, Father took Danny and I to a heist so we could learn on the job. It was our first time out of the house since we were born. Our family was so protective of us. We weren't even allowed in the backyard without security. But just as Dad and his men were about to take the crown jewels out of the glass cage, Danny leaned into the wall and slipped. We all turned to him and saw that his elbow had a huge red dot. He tripped the lasers. The alarm blared and the windows began to close with steel shutters. The whole crew were in the getaway vehicles in an instant. But when I looked back, I saw that the guard dogs had been released, and one of them was a tiny puppy, and it got in the metal gate, and the shutters were about to close. I jumped out and everyone screamed, but I had to save the puppy. Dad took one look at me and one look at the cop cars coming from round the bend and made his decision. He could have come back for me, but he chose to leave before the cops arrived. And that was how I abandoned my own family during a failed heist. The cops who found me were a couple. They had been trying for a baby for years without success. So when they found me, their prayers got answered. It took them weeks trying to find out where I was from, and I didn't even know our address. They had no idea I was a crime lord's son. From being raised in a crime compound, I became a man in a house with 2 police parents. I grew up wanting to follow their footsteps. I grew up training with the puppy I rescued. I named him Balto. And when I went to study at the police academy, Balto went with me. He became my canine companion. But while everyone was paired up with Rottweilers and German Shepherds, I was the only one who insisted on having Balto as my partner. He was a tiny little boy, and my classmates laughed at us. As soon as I graduated, my dream of becoming a star detective was quickly dashed by reality. I found out that even cops can be evil and corrupt. I was treated like dirt by those above him, and the chief's son, Evan, made me the station's errand boy.
Who are you gonna arrest with that tiny dog of yours? Girls who shoplift at the mall?
Actually, shoplifting incidents have gone up in the past 6 months, and it's becoming a...
Shoplifting incidents have gone up... Shut up, you nerd! Get us some donuts! That's all you're good for!
One day, the entire squad got sent to fancy hotel for a sting operation. They said we would catch a big fish, but the big fish never appeared. It was like they knew we were hiding in the penthouse suite they were supposed to check into. As usual, I was left behind to clean up, but as I put away all the donut boxes, the door to the suite burst open. I swung around, thinking I would catch the criminal who was late. Instead, I caught a pair of lips, and they landed on mine. My eyes widened in surprise as I realized the girl I was kissing was beautiful beyond compare.
Come, we're late for Jen's party. Oh, you look so good in those suspenders. You pretending to be a cop or something? Looks hot.
Melissa dragged me from one party to the next, introduced me as her boyfriend. Every time she said it, I blushed. I never had one before. Thing was, she kept introducing me as Danny, and she kept calling me that too. And then I realized the Danny she was talking about was my long-lost brother, the mafia heir. She kept purring all night.
Oh, I can't wait to be your wife. I'm sure you'll spoil me, won't you?
I went along with it. Melissa was rich and famous and beautiful. She was always wearing furs and designer shoes, so I had to keep making up excuses as to why she had to pick me up or foot the restaurant bills every time we went out. I became known in social elite circles. They raved about what I wore, but honestly, all my clothes came from goodwill. Girls swooned whenever they'd see me and Mel at the clubs. But one day, the secret became too heavy to bear. So I bought a gas station bouquet, the only thing I could afford, and I took Melissa to my real house. I'm sorry I deceived you. I knew you had mistaken me for someone else, but what we have is special, isn't it? Money is nothing in the face of love.
You stupid, lying, unsalted pretzel! I spent 2 months worth of my allowance trying to impress you, thinking you're Danny Chung, and you're just a nobody who doesn't even have his own car? You're so cringe!
And that's how I found out that I had been dating a con artist who was trying to love trap a billionaire who looked exactly like me. Melissa took the bouquet from my hands, threw it onto the ground, and stomped onto it before she slapped me across the cheek and walked away forever. I was down in the dumps, but that same day, I got lucky. While I was feeling sorry for myself, I overheard a phone call that Evan was trying to make in secret.
It's been weeks, Danny! I gave you the tip-off so you would escape the sting operation. Where's my money?
I jumped out of the bushes. Is that why we never catch any bad guys?
You too busy securing that bag? Huh? Shut up! You heard nothing! You tell anyone about this and what?
I finally realized, if I wanted to get ahead in life, I needed to get my hands dirty. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
I'll make it easy for you. All the money you're getting, funnel into my account. That'll keep my mouth shut. And you and your daddy will avoid seeing the inside of a jail cell. Capiche?
After an entire year of just extorting him dry, Evan came crawling to my house.
Please, man, the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm up to my neck in debt. I keep losing at the casino. If I don't pay up, I'm toast.
Sounds like a you problem. Figure it out. And Evan did. He married an heiress to solve his problems. They had a lavish ceremony the chief paid for, and a massive party where socialites were invited. I heard the Chungs were in attendance. On paper, they were my family. But in reality, not anymore. So I snuck in dressed as a butler. In my head, I would burst into the scene and arrest the notorious syndicate family that had been controlling our city for decades. But then, I ran into a girl dressed in all white, and she recognized me.
Paul? Paul Henderson? Oh my God! You were nobody when you were a young cop. But now you're a butler? You've really hit rock bottom, haven't you?
At the mention of the word cop, everyone turned around in panic. Evan and I locked eyes, and he knew what was up. He knew his secret would come out if one word left my lips. So he tackled me, and Danny and Father, who were Evan's guests of honor, ran to escape the venue. But then, Balto burst out of the wedding cake, snarling at my biological family. Their security tried to wrestle my dog away from the door, but Balto was fierce. He held his ground and snapped at anyone who came too close.
Cool off your mutt, you stupid boy! Let us go! We're family, for crying out loud! The cops are coming!
And suddenly, I felt someone hug me from behind. I turned around and saw my grandfather. I had never seen him smile and cry at the same time.
Don't you dare let those two traitors go! My grandson, my Paul! They told me you were gone all those years ago. I knew it was fishy. Right after I told your deceitful father that I wanted to skip a generation, to make you the heir instead of him.
So when I went back to help Balto,
he saw his opportunity.
I cuffed Danny and Father myself, and when Mom and Dad came to the scene, they took my biological family away. It was satisfying to watch, but it did hurt to see my beloved grandpa get taken away too. But I still had a laugh at the end of the day when I turned to Evan and his new wife. You do know, Evan, that you married Melissa Eckhart, well-known marriage scammer. She's a con artist. She marries guys for money. She's not a real heiress.
What?
And you, Melissa, you think this guy has money? He's got more debt than cash, you blonde bimbo. You really should try a different career. You're terrible at finding the right target. You both are so dumb. You wanted to marry for money and both ended up marrying paupers. I was awarded a medal by the new chief of police. Evan's dad was forced to resign, and Evan served 2 years for corruption charges. Grandpa got out for good behavior, and he finally retired, leaving me everything he owned. He was still super rich, even after his stuff got seized. Now, I live a happy, easy life with my adoptive parents, Balto, and Jess, my new girlfriend, the waitress I met when I pretended to be a butler at Evan's wedding. Oh, and guess what? I got promoted. I'm now the city's most promising detective.